H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.
Yes, Kiran, I completed the topic on collection. We even spoke about a few of the concepts on generics also. Okay, just go through the videos. Probably it's pretty much easy. If you, as I said, if you know core Java concepts properly, so collection is just a peanut. Okay. All right. Okay, so today we are going to start on multi-threading. We are going to see what is a thread, what is a thread concept, how do you create a thread class, and what are the different states. We'll see a couple of states at this point of time. Okay, I won't be able to show all the states to you. Okay, so what is a threading? First of all, so in plain terms, when you talk about multi-processing, it's something like in your computer I got GoToMeeting, I've got PowerPoint, I've got Eclipse, I've got Sublime, I've got whatnot. Okay, so different things I have got. Alright. So this is a multiprocessor system wherein multiple programs are running at the same time. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of talking about multiple processing, I'm going to talk about multiple threads running at the same time. Okay. So when you talk about multiple threads at the same time, what does that mean? Now, when, for example, when you watch your TV, two threads runs at the same time. One is your sound and one is your picture. Okay, so that means when you start on your TV, two things happens at the same time. Okay, one you watch the TV and the other one you listen the volume. Now, what happens if it is not sync? Right, so if it's something like somebody says hello and after 2 minutes you listen hello. Okay, so everything has to be synced. So in that case you need one process, okay, which can run two different things at the same time. Now when you switch on the TV is one kind of a program which is actually running two things at the same time. Okay, so here we are going to talk about more or less of the same concept. Here we will see even how we can share a particular resource. Okay, now typical example, when you talk about your share marketing website, you see at one point of at one screen you get the results of each and every company's share. The other side you see the Sensex. Okay, so from where that particular website is able to capture both the information at the same time. Okay, if let's say you do not do that, so what happens? Let's say you are basically talking about the market value, right? Let's say a company's share value. At the same time, once you read that, then only you want to go and see the complete market value. Okay, so there is no sync at all. I mean, at the time when you see the market value, might be the share might come down or go up, right? So, but you want to see both the things at the same time. So when I say both the things at the same time, when you talk about a share marketing of a particular company, okay, so that comes from a different resource. When you talk about the market value, that particular information comes from a different resource. Okay, so I'm talking about here two things I'm able to read at the same time in my program. Okay, so what is a multi-threaded program? Basically, a multi-threaded program contains two or more parts that can run concurrently. Each part of such a program is called a thread, and each thread defines a separate path of execution. Okay, now when I say separate path of execution in Java, every program, give me a sec, guys. Yeah, sorry, the background noise of a helicopter. Give me a sec. Okay, all right. So here I'm talking about a particular thread. Now, what do you mean by the thread? Okay, now we have already spoken about thread. Even if you have done a program in Java, that is also a thread by itself. Okay. Now in Java, whenever you talk about any of the class, if you run your main method, okay, if you run any of the program, if you start your main method, your program is basically running on a particular thread. Okay. Now what are we going to do is, from inside this particular program, from inside my main program, I'm going to run multiple threads at the same time. Okay, we'll see one by one how to even create a thread. Slowly we'll understand what is a thread and even what is the use of a thread also. Okay. In real life, whenever you talk about any gaming applications, yes, you will use threads a lot over there. But when you talk about your advanced Java courses, you will not take up the responsibility to write any kind of thread concept program there. Instead, every program in your advanced Java, when I talk about advanced Java or J2E concepts, I talk about, let's say, JSPs or servlets. Everything has its own thread. Okay, so if you understand this properly, it will be very easy for you to understand advanced Java courses, because in that I'll be talking about threads. Now, what is a thread? That's what we are going to understand out here. Okay. Now, a multiple thread program contains 2 or more parts that can run concurrently. We'll see that. Each part of such a program is called a thread. Okay. And each thread defines a separate path of execution. When I say separate path of execution, now MS Paint. Okay. Now, when I say separate path of execution, if I run 2 programs, so 2 programs run at the same time. Okay, you know that if I want to run the 2 programs same time, I have to have 2 main classes and I have to run that. Okay, that doesn't comes under a thread. Okay, so when I want to run 2 programs at the same time, I want to run this in 2 different threads. So we'll see that how to do that. Okay, now when you talk about threads, there are 2 distinct type of multitasking. One is a process based. A program is the smallest unit of program that can be dispatched by the scheduler. Okay, and a thread is the smallest unit of the dispatchable code. That is, this means that a single program can perform 2 or more tasks simultaneously. So we will be more interested in talking about this. That is, a single program can perform 2 or more tasks simultaneously. Now, what is this? As I was saying, for example, okay, let's say if you go to a restaurant. Okay, so when you go to a restaurant, couple of friends go all together. So what you do is you have a single waiter over there, and that waiter is going to come to you. Okay, and you basically that particular resource or that particular waiter is able to serve each and every thread of, each and every person, right? So here in this case, each and every person is a thread, and all the thread are basically using a particular resource out here. Okay, so we'll see that as well, and how those things have been performed. Okay. Now, when you talk about a thread, it has basically got a couple of states. Okay, so first is whenever you create a new thread, the same way when you create a new object, it is a new object, right? So it is the moment you create a thread, it is a new, and then from your new, it is going to be runnable. That means it is ready to run. Okay. Now it is running now, and from your running state, it might go to a wait, block, or sleeping state. I think we have already spoken about the sleep functionality in couple of programs as well. Okay, so once the thread complete, it goes to your dead state. So these are the 5 states of a particular thread, which we will see as well. Okay, so let us jump into the program right now. I'll try to cover up all the things today, so that we cover up the complete core Java course today. Okay, and we can head towards your advanced Java courses as well. Okay, now how do you create a thread? Okay, so very plain and simple. In order to create a thread, let's say I'm going to create a thread name as computer thread. Okay, now in order to create a thread, I can extend that particular class to your thread, and that thread is from your java.lang.thread. Okay, now this class computer thread, it is extending your thread out here. Okay, now if you go and see your thread class, there is a run method out here. Okay, this run method we are going to override. All right, so what are we going to do? We're just going to say run. Okay, now it is just a kind of a simple method what you basically create in any of the classes. Okay, now at this point of time, you feel that okay, there is a class, you're just trying to extend a thread, and you're just overriding a run method, right? Now in this run method, what am I going to do is I'm just going to say for int I equals to 0, I less than 5 I plus plus. Okay, so in this particular loop I'm just going to say here sys out, okay, running computer, okay, and I'm just giving the incremental value out here. Okay, now I created a thread, that is your computer thread, which extends your thread class. Now, there are two ways we can even create a thread. One is by extending a thread, the other one is your by implementing your runnable interface. Okay, and this is your implements runnable. Okay, either way you can do it. All right, it has using a runnable has its own advantage, because you know when you talk about a class can only extend a single class. Let's say we have got a lot of classes, right? So when we talk about a person here, no, person is not a good example out. Where is that? Class extends example. Okay, so when you talk about a woman is basically extending a human. But if you want to make this particular thread as a particular class as a thread program, you cannot basically extend it to a thread class. Okay, in case you have to implement the interface out here. Okay, so it is always good practice to use your interfaces out here. All right, so I have created a thread right now. All right, now how do I run this particular program as a thread? Okay, so here I just want to say main method. I just say main, enter. Okay, and I can even create this main method in a different client program also, but just to make it short, I'm just creating it out here. Okay, so I just say computer thread ct equals to new computer thread. Okay, now when I say computer thread ct equal to new computer thread, it is basically nothing but it is in your new state. Okay, that means the thread is not alive. Okay. One sec, guys. All right, so where were we? Make sure everything's
Jalam, I have a quick question. What is this thread dependent on? Is it dependent on the CPU process, or how does it?
It is dependent on your. It is dependent on your CPU. Yes. Okay, and it has it runs on a scheduler. Basically, when you run a thread, you basically give your thread to a scheduler. Okay, so
and where is this scheduler?
It's all. I mean, it's in your system itself, right? When you run a program, okay, so your complete program or complete thread basically runs on your computer. Now it's your computer's responsibility to give the priority to a particular thread. Okay.
Okay, so basically what you're saying, each of our operating system, may be Windows, Linux, or Unix, will have a scheduler in the operating system that's going to pick this thread up.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm just meeting you. Okay. Alright, so here what I was saying is I am just trying to run a program, and yeah, it is a good question actually, because when you talk about creating a thread, we'll talk about it when you say creating multiple threads, know which thread comes first and stuff. We'll talk about those things, and we'll talk about scheduler also. Okay. Now here in this case, in order to call my run method, what I can do is I can just say ct dot run, very plain and simple. Okay. Now when I do it in this way. Okay, and just to tell you one thing, if I say sys out and I just say thread dot current thread dot get name. Okay, I just want to get the name of a particular thread which is running right now. And as I said from the very beginning of the class, your main method by itself runs in a particular thread. Okay, so there will be at least one starting point in a complete application, because if I want to run the entire application in a single program, this might be a main program from with the help of which I will be able to start the entire program, because with the help of this I may create an instance of a person, I can create an instance of an employee, and whatnot I can do. An employee can use a person and whatnot. Okay, so those things I can do it using my main program. So which is my main program? My thread.currentThread.getName. So if I just run this program right now, you're going to see what is the name of this particular program, Java application. Okay, now if you can see, the name of this particular program is nothing but your main program by itself. Okay, so every program runs from a main program itself. Okay, or every thread runs from a main thread itself. Okay, now what am I trying to do? I have already created a different thread. Okay, so from the main thread I'm trying to invoke a different thread out here. Okay, now if I say ct.run, and if I, let's say who is running this thread. Okay, now who is running this program, right? So when I say who is running this program, this program is being run by your main program itself. Okay, so if I say who is running this program, if I say the same thing out here plus, okay, now remove this. Okay, now if I run this particular program, what's going to happen is, let me run this. So it says, is there any questions, Saroja, anyone? Okay, I'm muting all. Yeah, folks, if you have any questions, you can just ask me. It's one of the important concept which we need to understand. Okay, you just can raise your hands and ask me questions. Okay, now I just say computer thread ct equal to new computer thread and just say ct.run. Very plain and simple, right? It's very simple. As you create a method and you just try to invoke a method. Okay, now let me run this. Right click, run as a application. If you see, when I run this particular API or method, you're basically executing this for loop, and in this for loop you're saying running computer 0 1 2 3 4, and at the same time you are executing, or you are trying to get which particular thread is actually running my program. So here from the main program, okay, as this is a main program, from the main method, okay, this main method is actually executing this program, right? Now I want to start this particular class in a different thread. Okay, in order to start a program in a different thread, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to invoke the start method on the particular thread. Okay, so I just say ct dot. Okay, now as I have used runnable, I cannot use ct dot start. Okay, so let me first talk about thread here, and then we'll talk about runnable interface. Okay, now let me close other things. Computer thread. Okay, now at this point of time I'm able to invoke this because at this point of time I have extended this particular class to a thread class, okay, instead of runnable. And in a runnable you have got only one method, that is your run method. Okay, okay, that's fine, Saroja. Alright, so let's see what's going to happen right now. So your expectation could be, or my expectation for the first time when I started learning threads also, is something like whenever even I execute this program, I will get the same answer. So I'll be getting main, and main. Okay, but let's see what's going to happen. Run as Java application. Now, if you see here, as I said, every program in Java runs in a thread itself. Okay. So here, the very first time when you run this program, this is your main thread. That's what it is getting printed here. Again, from your main thread, what you're doing is you are actually saying a thread which is already created. You're just saying ct.start. The moment you say ct.start, this program, the entire program basically runs in a different thread of execution. So it is a different thread completely altogether. Okay, but who is running this thread? Your main program is running this thread. Right, so if you can see, when I say thread.current thread.get name, instead of saying main, it is saying thread 0. Right, if I say again, I say ct1 and I say ct1 out here. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen. Right click, run as Java application. So right now it is running thread 0 and thread 1. Okay, and you have no control right now. If you see here, both are using the run method out here. Okay, and you have no control on which particular program is going to run first. Sometimes your thread 0 is running, sometimes thread 1 is running, sometimes 0 1 1 0 1 1. Okay, so what happens basically is whenever you start a thread, okay, you basically give the control to the scheduler. Now it's the responsibility of the scheduler to basically let which particular thread can run in the run the program. Okay, now I have started the thread. So let us right now, just to be more simple, let us only talk about a single thread. Okay, so I just say ct dot get state. So I want to get the state of a particular thread class. Okay, so sys out okay. So this is start, and after the thread has been started, okay, now usually if you see here, if I show you one of the other program, okay, just understand this properly, very important to understand. If I say here, let me copy the same for loop out here. Okay, so I'm using the for loop here, and then I just say sys out end. Okay, so I'm not concerned about this, I'm just concerned about the loop out here. Okay, so if I run this program, right click, run as Java application. So after your for loop completes, then only your SOP gets printed out here. Very plain and simple. That's what we have been. Is start calling the run method? Yes, internally your start is actually calling the run method. Okay, we don't have to do that. If we do it, it is not a thread. Okay, we are not creating a new thread. Instead, we are just the way we are invoking a method of a class, we will be just doing that. Okay, but we are mainly concerned about a particular thread out here. Okay, now comment this or delete this. Go back here. Okay, now we will see basically what are the state of a particular thread. Okay, let me run this program. Okay, right click, run as Java application. Okay, and let me even do one thing. Let me even give a name to this particular thread. So I can just say ct dot set name. I can give a name to this particular thread. Let's say HP. Okay, so I've given the name of this computer thread as HP thread. Okay, so right now let's run this. Now instead of your thread 0, I'm giving a specific name to the thread. Right click, run as Java application. So what do you get? You get new and runnable. Okay, now here why it is new and runnable? Because the time you started your thread, so this is you started your, I mean you just created a thread here, and then after creating this thread, you just got the state. What is the state of this thread? Okay, it is your new thread. Okay, after your thread has been started, okay, it does not basically stops here. It starts. It is something like okay, so if this is your main program and this is a sub program in it, that is a thread. Okay, so the moment you hit this program to start, what happens is this program, it starts by its own. Okay, it's all separate, it is running by itself. Okay, and if there is another program just below that, that will get executed. It is nothing but something like it doesn't mean that once this is complete, then only this will start. The same thing out here. It doesn't mean that once when you say thread.start, this is a complete different program which is going to run in a complete different stack. Okay, and then at the same time it gets a control out here. Okay, so just try to understand this. Can we say start 2 times? We'll see that, Rashmi. Okay, we'll see that as well. You'll get an exception basically. Okay, all right, now okay, with regards to the question, yes, Madhu, it is an asynchronous process completely. Okay, yeah, in regards to Rashmi's question, Rashmi has asked me, can we say ct.start 2 times? Then you can basically cannot do that, because can a person rebirth 2 times? No, right? He has to basically die, and then only he can take a rebirth. Okay, that is an incarnation basically. Okay, that is again a concept. I don't believe on that. Okay, so here the concept, you cannot once you start a thread, okay, you cannot again start a thread, because you're trying to start a thread again which is already dead. Okay, or which is already running. So which is already running, you cannot start the thread again. Okay, so right now we are just saying new and we are saying runnable. Okay, that means when you run the program or when you start the thread, the thread state changes to a runnable state. Okay, now what am I going to do is I am going to, at this point of time, I'm going to create, let me create a new program right here. Okay, so let's say new class computer client. So in this computer client, basically I will create all the threads instead of creating that in the other program. So let me copy all these things from here and let me just keep this as it is without disturbing the major functionality. Okay, delete this and delete this. Format. Okay, now even I don't need this, the main thread. Okay, leave it. Right. So I just created a thread. I gave a name to the thread. I just got the state of the thread. I started the thread again. I got the state of the thread. Okay. Now what am I going to do? Right click, run as Java application. Okay. So you get new and runnable, and you get HP and HP, blah blah blah. Okay. Now what is my main intention to show you here? Right click, run as Java application. Still you get runnable. Okay, so multiple times I say get state after starting the thread. So I started the thread here. Okay, no, I just created the thread here. Okay, now once the thread is started, you will get the state as runnable state. Okay, now what am I going to do is there is an option for me. It is something like when you whole day you basically do your work and at last you go to sleep. So when you go to sleep, you're the same human being. You go to sleep, you don't do anything, right? All your work gets pending. I mean, I know you guys are practicing a lot the core Java, and when you sleep, you halt the practice basically, right? And then in the morning when you wake up in the morning 5:30, because you guys are very much studious, so you wake up in the morning and you just resume your work, right? So what am I going to do is I am going to sleep this particular thread. So when I say a thread, always remember a program which is running. Okay, so program which is running here. Now I want to give a halt here, and again I want to resume after some time. Okay, so that's what I want to I'm going to do here right now. I'm just going to say thread dot sleep. Okay, now which thread I'm sleeping? I'm making it to sleep. I'm making the main thread to sleep here. Okay. Now, as you know, we have already spoken about your checked exception. So your thread.sleep is basically a checked exception. So you have to put that in a try and catch block. Okay. And it is going to basically catch your interrupted exception. So interrupted exception in the sense a thread which is already running and you are trying to interrupt, saying that thread, which is already sleeping, and you want to interrupt the thread saying wake up. So when you interrupt a particular thread, it gives you some kind of exception. So that is your interrupted exception. Okay, now what I did is I have made this thread that is a main thread. Okay, I'm talking about main thread. This is an entire different thread out here. Okay, now what is the purpose of doing out here? Okay, now when I start this program by saying ct.start, what happens? As I said, here copy this. Okay, so as I told you already, then the moment you start this particular program, what happens? This piece of program runs in its own separate stack. Okay, so there is no linkage between this and this at all. So it is going to run its own which method? Your run method. Whenever you say start, it is going to run the run method. Now this run method is going to take, let's say for each loop, it is going to take. So I'm going to make the thread sleep here also. So the same thing, I'll just copy this and I will make this thread sleep for every 1 second. Okay, so this is your 1 second. Okay, and let me decrease the loop here. Let me decrease the loop to 3 seconds. To 3 here. So what happens? Every time it comes here, it basically sleeps for 1 second, comes here again, and goes on. Okay. So let us run this program. What am I doing? I'm using two threads. When I say thread.sleep, I'm basically making this particular thread. Which thread? Your main thread sleep here. When I'm saying thread.sleep here, I'm making the which thread? Your HP thread out here. Okay. Now let us run this program and see what is the consequence. Okay. Right click, run as. So let me make this as 1 again. Right click, run as Java application. Now if you see here, one by one, everything is getting printed. Okay, 0 got printed, 1 got printed, 2 got printed, and there was a delay also in the printing. So if I just increase the size to, the time to 3 seconds. So if I run this program again, Java application, 0, 1, it takes its own time, and 2, right? And if you see here, the state of the thread is now time waiting. I mean, it is waiting. At one point of time, the moment it came here, it doesn't mean that right click run as Java application. Okay. And it doesn't mean always you might get a time waiting. You might get a different state of the particular thread also. Okay. So here, what am I trying to make you understand here? Where is this? End. So let me just say here end. Okay. So right click, run as Java application. Okay. Now, okay. So when it came here, end time waiting. Okay. So it is a state of a particular thread, which is at that point of time it was waiting actually. Okay. Now, how much time it took to execute the entire program? It took around 6 seconds for me. Okay. When it took 6 seconds, because each execution took 3 seconds for me. Sorry, it is 9 seconds for me, right? So let me make it as 1 second. So right now, as I'm looping 3 times, I'll be waiting for each loop. I'll be waiting 1 second. So I have 3 loops, 3 seconds. So this program entirely takes 3 seconds for executing the whole program. Now, once this execution is done, your thread is basically dead. Okay, unless and until your thread is alive, that means you're doing some operation on the thread. You can even make some infinite calls also from here. So the moment till your program runs, okay, your thread is still alive. Okay. Now I have made this as 3 seconds. Okay, somewhere if you see your paint here, so this is going to run for 3 seconds for me. Right, but after this, if you see, there is one more program which I have already started, that is your thread.sleep. Right, now this is waiting for 1 second. Okay, now let me make this as 5 seconds. So after your thread, that is your computer thread, finishes, even though you have still 2 minutes of time, 2 seconds of time to come to this point, because when I say thread.sleep, the execution of the main program stops here and it will not even come here unless and until your thread.sleep finishes. Okay, or thread.sleep wakes up. Okay, so let us run this program again. Right click, run as Java application. So 0, 1 and 2 got printed. Still my end is not printed. Okay, now when I say end, now it is saying what is the state of this thread? It is in your terminated state. That means your thread is being terminated because I have made this main thread to sleep for 5 seconds. After that, I'm invoking this one. Okay. In the meantime, your computer thread has already been executed and it gave you the result and it is dead right now. Okay. Now, when you reach here, you see the state as terminated. That means your thread has been terminated. Can you again, when the thread is terminated, can you say ct dot start? That was a question from Rashmi. So let us see that right now. Okay, so it says basically your illegal thread state exception. You cannot basically start a thread which has already been terminated. Okay. Now, as I said, you can even implement with your runnable interface also. It's all the same, more or less. Okay. Now let us see a couple of other programs which if you can understand. Okay, just look here closely. What I have done here is I have written a program out here. So let us start from the very beginning. Okay. Now when your thread has been started, now if you see here, I have created a timeout here. Okay. So this is your 1 millisecond, yeah, 1 second into 60, that is your 60 minutes into 60. So it is, I'm going to basically say it is 1 hour. Okay. Now, I'm basically going to say arg.length. If it is greater than 0, then you just take the argument. It is now, I'm not going to pass on any values out here. Okay. So here you just have a method that is a thread message, and you're just printing a message starting message loop thread. So this is your message loop thread, and if you see, it's nothing but here just a method out here. Okay. And here I've just used a system.out format, and I've given a string and a string out here, and this is a new line. Okay. So you can even use the system.out format also. The way you use the system.out.println, you can use the system.out format, and what particular value you want to give it out here. Okay, it's a string and string. So I'm giving a string out here and the string out here. Okay.
Jaram, just a minute. Could you please explain the system out format? How do we write that? And what's the significance like?
It's actually when you say system.out.println, you just give the entire thing in the form of a string. Okay. Here you are just saying, if you remember your C programs, if anybody remember the C program, when you give any output, you basically say what particular output you want. Now here I just say percentage S, that means it is a string. For it is for a number, you say percentage D. Okay. And here you say I'm giving a string and a string out here. Okay. And I'm just saying every after giving some output, you just have a new line character appended to it. Okay. So string and string, I'm giving a string, comma string. Okay. So the same thing here, if you see, I have declared a class inside a class. So whenever there is a class inside a class, that is nothing but your inner class. Okay. So we have spoken about class. This is a class which is inside a class. This is nothing but your inner class. Okay. Now, I created this class inside the main program, which is, that is a simple thread. And here I'm just saying class which implements a runnable. And in the runnable, I am having just a method here, a run method, which I have overridden this one. And I've got a string array, and string array has got a couple of values in it. Right. Now, what am I trying to do for each loop? Okay, I'm just looping through this particular array. We already know how to loop it. And what am I trying to do? I'm just saying in each loop, wait for 2 seconds. After each loop, wait for 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, get the value of each value from the array. So I, and even get the state of this particular thread also. Okay. So that's what I'm going to run out here. If I simply run this program, it is going to loop through this 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, and it is just going to print this particular message. In this, you're basically giving what? Your values. Okay. Now you're just giving this value. This value goes here, and you're just printing out here, and other value is your thread name. Okay. And if you have some kind of interruption, you basically say I wasn't done. We'll see that shortly now. Okay. Now let us see the main program out here. What are we doing here? Whenever you want to start a thread, you can even say thread t equals to new thread. Okay. Why is this used here? Because if I go back to my thread program, if I use my implements runnable, okay, you know that whenever you implement runnable, I have already shown you that you cannot basically invoke the start method, because your runnable does not have a start method in it.
Avast virus database has been updated.
Okay. Now, how do I start a thread when you implement a runnable interface? What I have to do? I have to create a thread t1 equals to new thread, and pass the thread which I've created to this one. Okay. Now, what am I going to do? I'm just going to say t1 out here and t1 out here. Okay. So the same thing for every place. I just need to. Okay. So this is overruled. This we cannot do it. We cannot start a thread which is dead. Okay. Today I think we'll be extending the class because I have planned to complete this. Okay, so it might take some more time, maybe half an hour more or so. Alright, so as I said, whenever you implement a class with your runnable interface, you cannot directly invoke that particular start method. Instead, you have to create a thread, and in that thread, you have to give the computer thread. Okay, and then you have to say t1.start. Alright. So if you have a direct thread, you can set thread.start, but if you have a runnable thread, you cannot basically do that in that fashion. Okay. So the same thing is happening out here. If you see, I'm using a inner class out here, and that is basically implementing a runnable interface, and you have a run method out here. Okay. So in order to start a thread, as yeah,
Jerome, I'm a little confused.
yeah, go ahead.
Can you go back into that code again? The thread T1 equal to the code that you were not. You're right there.
This one.
So when you say thread T1, what are you declaring here? Because computer thread CT is the actual thread, am I
Yeah,
right?
that is the actual thread.
So what is thread T1 then?
Yeah. Now, as I said, if you extend this particular class to thread, okay. Now, if I open this particular thread class has got a lot of different methods. Okay. Out of that, we are only interested about your start. Okay. Now you have got already a start method, and that start method is going to take care of your run method to start. Okay. But when you implement your class to a runnable, there is no start method at all in the complete hierarchy. Okay. Now, even though if your thread right now, the one you created, which is implementing a runnable, now you have to start your thread, right? Anyhow, right? Now, in that case, in order to start a thread in that case, you cannot say ct.start because start is not at all present in any of the hierarchy of this particular class. At that point of time, you have to give this particular thread to the thread class itself. So I can create an instance of a thread, which is actually from your java.lang, okay, which is again implementing your runnable interface itself. Okay. So in order to start a thread,
Jaran, just a minute. Why are we using an inner class here?
no, I'm not into that class right now. I'm just clarifying Keith's or somebody's doubt now. Okay, we'll get into that.
Apart from that, I'm saying that not in the client program, the other class, you mentioned that we are using an inner class.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
The
I'm
inner
just
class is implementing the runnable interface. Why are we using an inner class?
Yeah, shall I complete one of the doubt and then we'll get into it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Now, okay, coming back to, okay, can I just get the name of the person who has actually asked me this question? Is it Amit?
Amir.
Amit?
Amir.
Amir, okay. All right, Amir. So here in this case, as I know, I cannot invoke the start method from this particular program because this doesn't have any start method, Amir. Okay. For that reason, what I have to do is I have to create a thread, and I have to give this thread the responsibility of this particular thread to start. Okay. So when you use a runnable interface, you cannot start a thread. Instead, you have to give the responsibility to a different thread class. So here I created a thread T1, and I just pass on the thread. If you see the constructor out here, it is nothing but taking the runnable interface, right? So our class by itself is implementing a runnable interface. So I can pass this particular thread to a thread class. Now here I can say T1, T1, T1. So I can just say, sorry, T1, T2, and T3. Okay. So what did I do? I created 3 threads, okay, using the same resource, that is a computer thread, and I will start my thread. Okay. Did that clear your answer? Amir? No? Okay. All right, so coming back to the next program out here, the question was why did I add a inner class out here? Okay, I could have done the same thing using your outer class also. There is no point I have added this. This is just to make you demonstrate what is the use of an inner class, and you can even have a class inside a class also. Okay, but again, in your real-time application, you do not see in your real-time applications. Okay, I want to create a class and I do not want to expose this particular class to the outside world. Okay, the way you create your private variables, I have created a private class out here so that this class cannot be accessed by anyone from any of the package. Now when you talk about a class somewhere in any of the package, I can easily access those classes. But here I'm using a private class because I'm only concerned about this class somewhere inside this particular class, inside your simple thread class itself. I don't want anyone to use that. Okay, so as I'm using it in this particular program, I'm just declaring this as a inner class, and that is a private static class. Okay, in down the line we even will see a couple of other inner classes also. Does that answer your question?
H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.